Hey folks, welcome back. I have your latest home prices and insights for York Region for week ending March the 2nd, 2022. This report today is for York Region, for Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham. If you want other parts of the city, check out some of the other videos because I do the City of Toronto on Tuesday and I do the Peel and Durham region on Wednesday. And today's Thursday for York Region. So the big question is the market shift, or how is the market shift affecting York Region? Is there even a market shift happening in York Region? We've talked about a market shift now in some of our other videos for a few weeks now. And well, let's look at some of the evidence. Let me first of all say, before I get into that or talk about the evidence, is that when we're talking a shift, we're not talking widespread craziness happening. We're not talking about it's rampant and crash. We're talking subtle signs that, hey, things are changing a little bit. Now, sometimes we'll see a little bit of that in the numbers that I'm going to show you shortly, but there's not a lot of evidence in the numbers yet because these are average numbers for a whole area. But when you're in the field, as we are, full-time realtors in the field, and we're looking at specific properties, we see some things happening that weren't happening just a few weeks ago. So here's some of the things that are happening. We're seeing properties that don't have as many showings as previously. Not all, some of them are still doing phenomenal. But there's others, not so many showings. And then we're seeing offer nights where we're not necessarily seeing 10 and 15 and 20 offers anymore. It's more of 3 offers, 5 offers, 2 offers, or no offers we've seen a few times now, which this was unheard of just a few weeks ago. So we're seeing less showings in some of the properties. We're seeing less offers on some of the properties. And as a consequence, we're seeing more properties that have an offer night, don't sell, and that get relisted at a more traditional price where you can negotiate down a little bit. You hear what I said? You can negotiate down a little bit. That was unheard of just a few weeks ago. Now, it's not widespread and it's not everywhere, but we're seeing, if you're on the buyer side of things, some more opportunities happening now, and we're seeing more listings coming onto the market now. So there is a slight shift happening, and maybe you're seeing it in your neighborhood. How does a seller deal with this? Well, if things are done properly, what I mean by things, I mean how the listing is managed, and by how the listing is managed, I mean everything to do with that listing. So that would be the pricing strategy, the marketing strategy. Yes, there's strategies. We don't just pick prices out of the blue, and we don't just decide to, this is how we're doing the marketing and it's the same for everybody. It's not the case. So pricing strategy, listing strategies, negotiation strategies, if those are done properly, you're going to get a great response. You're going to get a ton of showings. You're going to get lots of offers, and you're going to hit your goal as a seller. But if those things are not done properly, you're going to have some speed bumps. You're going to wonder, why are not a lot of people looking at my house for showings? Why do we not have so many offers? Oh, we didn't get nowhere near the price on offer night that we wanted. What do? Let's relist it at a price because we need to sell. If you're not hiring the right people to do that for you, you're going to run into a problem as a seller. So that's the shift I'm talking about. It's there. I'll talk about more evidence of that when I get into the numbers in a second. If you feel this video could help anybody you know, please share the video. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to reach us to talk anything at all about real estate, maybe your real estate situation, it's really simple. In the description below, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time. I'll make sure I'm available to talk about whatever's on your mind. Let's get into the York Region numbers. We're starting off with Vaughan Detached properties only. I have the whole year here broken down by week. We sold 57 detached properties last week in Vaughan, same as we did last week, but the properties selling at $2 million or more dropped by 2. We sold 31 properties at $2 million or more, so still more than half the properties sold at $2 million bucks or more. Average sold price $2,123,000, which is down from the previous week, which the previous week was a record at $2.3 million. We're now at $2,123. When we compare to last year at this time, we're 28% higher than last year's average sold price. Now, lots of people have been saying, you know, when you get average sold price, sometimes you get a really low sale that affects the number, or you get a really high sale that affects the number. So we introduced median price. Average sold price is 28% higher than last year's average sold price. Median price for Vaughan Detached is 31% higher than last year's median price. So average sold price, median price, pretty close. Of the 57 that sold, 84% sold at list price or more. Last year at this time, 74% sold at list price or more. And I remember when we were talking about 74%, like, oh man, that's a lot. Well, it's a year later, we're at 84% selling at list price or more. When we look at the year so far, year-to-date sales, the blue is last year's numbers, the orange is this year. We're way behind what we were selling last year at this time. Looking at listings, we listed 116 detached properties last week. Here's one of the signs that I see things changing. Active listings has been going up each week. We're now sitting at 158 active listings, which is up from the previous week. And months of inventory is up slightly also. It's now sitting at 0.6. So there's another little sign. And average days on market is up just by 1. It's only at 8 days on market. It's still very much a seller's market, make no mistake there. But there's a few little holes in the armor, so to speak, that we can see some changes happening out there. And because we're talking about averages, you're not going to see an overall major shift here. But in individual situations, we are seeing it in the field. Let's look at Richmond Hill. Sales went up quite a bit from last week. We sold 48 detached properties last week in Richmond Hill. Half of those 24 sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is up from last week. It's now at $2,115,000, which is 13% higher than last year's average sold price. Median price is 15% higher than last year's median price. Of the 48 that sold, 83% sold at list price or more. And if we look at the kind of the year to date, we're still similar to Vaughan, way behind last year's sales from January to March 2nd. Looking at listings, listings came down from last week. We want to see more listings. This is really going to help balance things out a bit better. But 87 were listed. Months of inventory is going up though. It's now at 193. And it's not so much because of this week's listings, but it's more of last week. Last week we listed 100. And if I could just go back, we sold only 35. So there was a bunch of sales that didn't happen the previous week, pushed onto this week, and that helps to bring up the months of helps to bring up the active listings. Months of inventory did come down a little bit to 0.9. Average days on market is sitting at 9. Looking at Markham, we sold 48 detached properties in Markham. 19 were at $2 million or more. Average sold price is up slightly to $2,056,000. So Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham, we're north of $2 million bucks for average sold price. For Markham, $2,056,000 is 11% higher than what it was last year at this time. Median price is 21% higher than what it was last year at this time. Of the 48 that sold, 81% sold at list price or more, which is down quite a bit from the previous week of 94%. And you could look at the sales year to date, say from here, we're way behind what we were selling last year at this time. Of the 113 that were listed, which is up from last week, 113 gives us active listings also increasing to 186. Months of inventory made what we call, this would be a big jump for me because we never see that much of a jump. We went from 0.6 to 0.9. And I know in Markham, we've seen properties that didn't sell on offer night. Not all, lots did great. But there's those few that, maybe you thought as a buyer, I can't buy this, it's for sure going to be more. And then it wasn't, and now you're able to go in and negotiate a price. Let's look at York Region condos. Sales went down from the previous week. We sold 70 condos. 6 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price came down a little bit. It's now at $773,000, which is 27% higher than what it was last year at this time. Condos are doing phenomenal, 27% higher than last year. Median price is 24% higher than last year's median price. Of the 70 that sold, 94% sold at list price or more. That's all of them. You can count on having to compete on every condo that you're looking to buy. Looking at sales year to date, we're way behind last year's sales figures. Listings are up. We listed 133, up quite a bit from the previous week. Active listings is going up a bit now, and months of inventory went up a little bit, sitting at 0.5. And days on market came down. It's now sitting at 9. Looking at the overall months of inventory, like I've said, months of inventory are still relatively low, and it's still a seller's market. But there are some slight changes in there that won't necessarily show up on the charts because we take a whole average of the area. But there are situations out there, if your realtor's on top of things and your realtor's really watching out for things, if you're on the buying side, there's opportunities that maybe you didn't have a few weeks ago. And if you're on the selling side or thinking of listing, it's so important you hire the right realtor that sees these situations and make sure you're not part of that shift, that you're still really hitting your big goals when it comes to listing your property. Again, if you want to talk to us, really simple. In the description below this video, there's a link to my calendar. Have an awesome week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.